Hello and welcome back. In this episode we're going to be taking these textures here and we'll be using those to make a few piles of rubble. So let's get started. Okay then, the first thing we'll need to do is take one of the floor textures and glue that to some cardboard. In this example it's just some thin corrugated stuff. Then once that's dry we can cut it to size. And if you're just looking to make a few areas of difficult terrain, you could leave it like that and just place it on top of a tile to show that that particular area is harder to move through. But we can also add a few other things like rocks, bricks and bits of splintered wood and use those to make areas where the dungeon really has started to collapse. So that's what we'll do next. Okay then, to make a large rock or boulder, we'll take a bit of white packing polystyrene and a really sharp knife. And I do mean one that's really sharp. For example, this one has a brand new blade. And we'll then cut the polystyrene into a basic rock shape, like you can see here. Though we do want to keep the shape fairly simple, otherwise we're just going to be making the next part harder on ourselves. So something like this. Right then, next we'll take a piece of the dark stone texture that's big enough to wrap around the piece that we just made, and we're going to scrunch that up several times, just to make it more malleable. And there we go. Then, using the trusty glue stick, we can apply plenty of glue to the back, and then comes the tricky part of wrapping it around the polystyrene. Now, I have been criticised in the past for speeding up the videos a bit too much, which is a fair comment, so if you want to see this part at normal speed, and see my shaky hands in all their full glory, then there's a link to an unlisted video in the top corner. But basically, the easiest way to do this is to make cuts from the edge of the paper towards each corner of the rock, and try to stick down one flat side at a time, if that makes sense. It's pretty much the same procedure as the rocks that I made back in Tips and Tricks video number 6. So yeah, as I said earlier, try to keep the shape of the rock fairly simple, otherwise this part is going to be a lot more difficult than it needs to be. Anyway, when we're done, we should be left with something like this. So, something that looks like it belongs in an old video game. And then we can go ahead and make a few more of various shapes and sizes. Okay, next we're going to make a few small bricks. So for these, we'll glue the lighter stone texture to some foam core, and in this example I've used a couple of different thicknesses, just to give a bit of extra variation. Then we'll cut out a few bricks that are a similar size and shape to those that you can see on the floor tile itself, like so. And all we'll need to do then is wrap the edge of the foam core in a strip of the same texture that's been cut to the same thickness, just like we've done in various other projects. And there you go, there's our little brick. And again, we'll need to make a few of those, and like I say, I've made some in 2 different thicknesses. Okay, the last thing we'll need to make are some bits of broken wood. So, here I've glued some of the wood texture to both sides of a piece of thin foam core, and I've also got a similar piece that's just got the texture on one side, but I'll explain that piece later. Now we'll just need to do a very similar thing with these as we did with the bricks. So we'll cut out a piece of wood that's a similar size to those that appear on the base. I'll actually also cut a little notch in this one as well. And once we're happy with that, we can wrap the edge in more of the wood texture. As I say, it's the exact same process. Anyway, when it's finished, it should look something like this. And if you hadn't already guessed, we'll need to make a few of those. And we'll also make a couple where the texture is just on the one side. Right then, now for the assembly. So I'll just quickly lay out a few of the different pieces that we've made so far. There we go. And all we'll need to do then is start gluing all of the pieces into place. So as you can see here, I'll usually start with a couple of the large boulders. Then I'll take one of the pieces of wood that's only textured on the one side, and once I'm happy with its position, I'll glue that to the base as well, like so. Then it's just a matter of gluing everything else into place, just so that the whole thing looks like a big pile of rubble. I can't really think of any other way to describe it. However, I will say that I personally like to have 1 or 2 planks of wood sticking up out of the pile, as I think that kind of adds to the overall effect. Anyway, here I am just adding a few of the small bricks around the edges to finish it off. And there you go, there's the finished piece, and you can hopefully see what I meant when I was talking about not having all of the wood pieces lying flat. So yeah, we can use these pieces to represent areas of the dungeon that might be starting to collapse, or we could just use the bases on their own to show areas of difficult terrain. It's totally up to you. Anyway, here's a quick picture of these new pieces in action, and I'm quite happy with how they've turned out. So, as always, thanks for watching. I hope you can put these to good use. Let me know in the comments if you plan on making some yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.